Hello everybody and welcome to this fine webinar this warm evening, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are today. My name is Steve, I'm your host for today's event, which should approximately take about an hour's time. And the idea of this event is to give you lots of free information with the pillars of industry that I virtually stand next to that join me today, all around planning and making that international purchase over in the wonderful country of Spain. It carries a lot of narrative and talk, particularly around visas and buying processes and the legal parameters around that, which we're going to cover in today's session. Just a few little disclaimers from me. This is being recorded, so if we cover anything and not enough detail for you, you will get the option to review the video thereafter. And equally, post-event, everyone's contact details will also be shared so that you can pick up with these experts as well. In the event today, you'll also see that there is the option to submit questions to the panel. We've had lots and lots of interest in this. We've had lots and lots of questions that have come through. We will be racing through them as quickly as we're able to. But if you are in the audience and you've got questions, please do submit them and we will race through them as quickly as we can through this session today. First off, let me introduce myself briefly and what I do here, and then I'll go around the panel so you know who we are and what we do. So to put voices and names to the faces in front of you. And then we'll go through some of the questions that have been submitted, more of the frequently asked questions to us all, before summarising and going through the questions that you've been submitting through the session. But my name is Steve. I work for a company called Lumon Pay, and we're an international property currency specialist. So we basically help people move money internationally around property transactions. To give you an idea, we're 25 years old. We've got 10 offices throughout Europe, and we're transacting on average about 25 to 30 million pounds sterling on a daily basis, so billions a year, and in essence we aspire to offer better rates and better service than that of the banks. So that's a little bit about me. But over to the rest of the preceding experts around me. First I'm going to go to Mo, please. Mo, please do introduce yourself, who you are and where you're from, and what we're going to cover today with you today.
Thank you very much, Steve. Good evening, everybody. Yeah, my name is Mohammed Butt. I am the Barcelona office director for Lucas Fox. We are the leading luxury real estate agency in the country, with around 30 offices dotted across Spain, also operating in France and Portugal also. I've been with the company now for 8 years, with a real estate background as well. And yeah, any property related inquiries or questions or queries, we're more than happy to help with anything in any way that we can see fit.
Thank you, Mo. I appreciate you being here today. I always learn something when we're talking, so looking forward to learning a bit more today. Ivan, over to you, please.
Hello, my name is Ivan Bellot. I am the managing partner of LexWire in Spain and also Hoseland. We are a law firm very specialized in real estate law. So today it's going to be a pleasure to help you with quite different important points that they are normally considered when you are a non-resident investing in Spain. Our 95% of our clients are non-resident who are buying a property here in Spain, and they normally face a lot of challenges because normally it's quite different, the regulations, the rules. So our main role is not only help them as lawyers, but the system that they can trust in order to buy secure when you are buying in Spain.
Thank you very much. Equally, legal is a very interesting piece because a lot of people normally just lean on Google first, or ChatGPT now, I suppose, but that doesn't class as legal advice. That's why we put together these experts. And last, over to Brian.
Hello everyone, my name is Brian Jimenez. I'm the director of Vicente Abogados. We are a law firm specialized in immigration law. 90% of our clients are from United States and United Kingdom, and we help foreigners to try to come to Spain, get a visa, stay more than 90 days. We had a lot of experience in the last few years with the Golden Visa, and now we are trying to address questions and help people find an alternative to stay more than 90 days and invest in the country and enjoy this beautiful country. So it's a pleasure to speak today with you, and hope this webinar is helpful for you.
Thank you. Great. Well, first, as I said, there were lots and lots of questions. Literally hundreds of people have signed up for this event. So what we've done first off is try to deduplicate some of the questions that we've received and put them together in our frequently asked questions section, which is where we're going to start. So Ivan, I'm going to come over to you first, if you wouldn't mind, on all things legal, because there's always some changes in here. if you can quickly just summarize, why is it important to have a lawyer involved when purchasing a property in Spain, especially as a non-resident?
Well, I think the most important thing, it's we always say in Spain that Spain is different. This is good in some ways, but it's also not good in another way. So it's not only about the language, it's also about the different ways of proceeding in Spain. And of course, because we have different rules, and it's normally not only a question of understanding how the law it is, but how to proceed in Spain. We have, I think the most common phase that we normally have to face is, yeah, but in my country, in America, the things are different, or in Germany or in the UK, it's like that. Yeah, but you are now buying in Spain. So you don't only need to think how it is in your country, but how it is in our country. And as we said, Spain is different, and also the legislation, the regulation, and how to proceed, it's quite different. So for that, I think it's very important to have a lawyer. Normally, if you're buying through real estate agency, they will help you with almost 95% of the things about the house. But something important to know that they are not lawyers. As we are not real estate agents, they are not lawyers. So from the legal perspective, it's very important to do a proper due diligence, having all the contracts helping you, because we have different kind of contracts in Spain, normally 3. We'll jump them to them, and also to negotiate in your behalf. It's not only about the prices, also it's about how you need to make the payments, how are you gonna face all the process, and how everything is gonna be settled in the best way for your interest, not only for the interest of the operation, but for your interest. For example, in the legal part, with the contractual base, we normally have different contracts if we are representing the buyer or the seller. So it's very important to having the very specific contract suits to you. And for that reason, it's quite important having a lawyer. Also, in Spain, we have to go, sorry, and I finish with this question. It's also important going to the notary, and how are you going to manage? So I think having a lawyer is the way to be ensured that everything is going to be not only legal, but also according to your interest.
There we go. A nice comprehensive answer there. But yes, lawyers are needed for sure. Next one for you. What are the key legal steps a lawyer should oversee? So in this case, if you can just give a better clarity for those international buyers that haven't bought property in Spain before, the timelines of the process from start to finish, just as a quick summary in under a minute. Go.
We normally check three main parts: the due diligence, the contractual part, and the notary asset. So from the due diligence perspective, it's very important to know that what you're buying, it's what you think that you're buying. I'm telling that because in Spain, sometimes what you think you're buying, it's totally different. We have a client buying for more than 50 million in one of the best areas in Mallorca, in Palma. He was very sure, he loved the property, he visited with the family, they wanted to buy, but when we start the due diligence process, it was not legal. If you just see the surface, it was okay. But if you dig a little bit more, they have some architectural and urbanistic issues. So the most important thing, in my opinion, it's first doing a proper due diligence in order to have a very clear picture of what do you have. Maybe you are okay if something is not 100% legal, because you can buy, you can live there, but it's very important to know exactly what you are buying. So for that reason, the due diligence is essential. And then also with the contractual part, something that the lawyer always have to check. Sometimes you are having a contract from the other party, from the real estate agency, or from different subjects, and it's very important to check all the points.
Timelines from start to finish. I found my dream property, I want to buy, I appoint yourself, negotiations is done. What's the timeline normally from offering and accepted to becoming legal owner of the asset?
Well, this is gonna depend, like always. Sorry, this is our favorite phrase. It's depending of your case. Depend of where are you buying. Depend if everything is okay, because the due diligence sometimes take a lot of time. Can take from 1 week to couple of months, depending of how big is the property and how problems do you have. But normally we can say that around 1 month, month and a half. Also, it's going to depend a lot if you are asking for a finance. If you're asking for finance, everything is going to be submitted to the financing process.
Thank you. Next question. Sticking with yourself, into taxes and legal costs. So what taxes and legal costs should a foreign buyer expect when purchasing a property in Spain? So we just give a headline example of what they should be budgeting for in their power spreadsheet of the cost of a purchase.
Yeah, from the mainly you have to pay taxes, and all the things are related to the notary and registration part. We normally say to have a number, it's the 10%. Which kind of taxes are you going to pay? Depend of when are you buying, depend what are you buying, and depend also how are you buying, because it's totally different if you're buying as an individual, if you're buying as a company, if you're buying as a foreign company, if you're creating a company in Spain. So it's very depending how are you going to do it, but it's normally around 10%, including both taxes and other notarial and registration costs.
Thank you. And a bit of common legal mistakes here. This is a good question that I liked when I saw this. What are the most common legal mistakes that non-resident investors make when buying a property in Spain, and how can they avoid it?
I think one of sorry, because I am a lawyer and I have to say that one of the main mistakes is don't hire a lawyer or don't hire with enough time. They normally came to us when they have the problem, so they're quite difficult to solve the problems. If you came before, it's quite easy, because maybe you are going to decide to go to another property. The point is that the people normally first doesn't understand the contracts. They didn't understand neither the process, and they don't check properly how do you need to do that. So when they are facing the problem, it's too late. Yeah, if I have to say one problem, it's being too late always, and don't choose the right professionals.
Great answer. Again, don't lean on Google and ChatGPT. Appoint the right expertise and service around a very big purchase with a big cost, which comes with its risks. Last one before we jump over to Mo with regards to property topics here, but more on yourself is what documents should a buyer's lawyer review before signing an agreement or making a deposit? Kind of links to your prior point. You want to be introduced and appointed early in the process to make sure that everything is lined up. What are those legal paperwork that people should be aware of?
We have something that it's very common in Spain. It's not as simple. It's like the simple document from the registry. This is like the basics. And this is what we need to check first, because you will find there the encumbrance, if you have any kind of mortgage, if also the description that you are going to check if it's exactly the same what they are selling. But it's very important to not only stick to this document, because even if you have the most common mistakes or the most common problems, you have to check a little bit bigger, especially if you're buying, for example, big property with quite plot of land, also if it's quite near to the coast, also if you see that they have something that doesn't appear there. So first of all, the first thing that you have to check is this, not a simple document from the registry, but then this is only the first step. Then it's quite important to go a little bit deeper and check with the city council, also with the cadastre, and also all the documentation that are attached to the specific building.
Thank you. Appreciate it. We'll come back to you with more questions that have been submitted live in the audience tonight. So yeah, if you've got questions, do want to come back to it, please do submit the questions as we go. Right, over to yourself, Mo. There was a topic certainly here around visas here that I wanted your expertise on this here, because visas is something that's taken the press a little bit in recent months, and as usual, some fears have perhaps been built on the wrong information.
Yeah.
The first question, what were the main reasons behind the termination of the Golden Visa program?
I would say a lot of it was actually just down to propaganda. I think there's a big movement that probably we've seen in the UK press as well surrounding foreigners that are buying, tourism in general and over tourism, let's say certainly in Spain, in certain different pockets of Spain. And there's no doubt that certainly in cities like Barcelona, Valencia and Madrid, there is a housing shortage, and prices have sort of significantly grown, I would say comfortably over the last sort of 5-6 years, year on year. Maybe just taking out COVID where everything was paralyzed. And it seems to be a bit of a movement from the government to say that, okay, we hear your concerns for the Spanish citizens and we're doing something about it. So it's kind of a little bit like scapegoating that, okay, due to over-tourism and foreigners that are coming in and buying, that's why the prices have increased and that's why you can't afford to buy. But obviously that's not the reality of the situation. Like all major cities, I think, across the world and certainly in Europe, when you have pockets of or a high concentration of employment or tourism in a city, then naturally house prices due to demand will go up. But the real way to sort of combat that is to build more homes, whether that is through subsidized housing or granting of licenses much quicker to regenerate areas, which seems to be a bit of a roadblock here in certainly in Barcelona at the moment. But that was, I would say, the main sort of advertised or politically sort of out there news pocket to say, look, we hear what you're doing and we're going to cancel the visa because too many visas have been issued, too many foreigners have bought, and that's why the prices have increased. Although that's obviously not the sole case for the housing market having increased over the last couple of years.
Thank you. More questions are coming in on the topic, so we'll come back to it as well. But the next question we had was, have you observed if the end of the golden visa has impacted the real estate market in Spain, particularly of Barcelona, which, as you mentioned, has been in the media a lot?
Yeah, in reality, no. I mean, I think if you look at Spain in general as a total country, the number of transactions that were solely for the purpose of obtaining the visa were already very low in comparison to the overall number of transactions done across the whole country. If you then looked at sort of certain cities like Barcelona or Madrid, where you have a lot of clients purchasing that perhaps didn't have the European Union nationality and therefore the visa was a plus point for them, I can't say that we've seen a real big impact in the number of transactions that we're doing. I think for a lot of the clients that we've certainly dealing with and spoken to, the golden visa was a nice sort of add-on and a nice thing to have, and gives them that extra flexibility to spend more days than what they would be able to on just a normal tourist visa. But a lot of the clients that, let's say American or now UK clients because of Brexit, bear in mind that a lot of these clients, if they wanted to spend more than 183 days in the country, they would therefore become tax resident in Spain as well. And due to various different sort of taxation laws, depending on where you are, Spain would then ask you to declare your worldwide assets to the Spanish tax authorities. So a lot of those clients that were buying specifically for the golden visa, what we found is that one, they had no real intention on spending over 6 months in the country, and they certainly didn't want to sort of start declaring their worldwide assets or wealth to the Spanish tax authorities. So we had a couple of cases where we were getting really, really tight to the deadline for getting the transaction done and the application in. Subsequently, for various reasons, the transaction got slightly delayed, but those clients still ended up buying the property anyway, because fundamentally it was still a good investment. The characteristics of the property and the reason behind why they wanted to buy it hadn't changed. So I can't say that we've had any deal fall through because now they can't get the visa. They don't want to go ahead with the purchase. I think fundamentally the reason why they fell in love with either the country or the city or therefore the property, it didn't make an underlying reason for them to say, do you know what, now we want to look at a different country or a different location.
I totally agree with that, and you summarised that really well. I think it was always perceived as a nice to have, as a bonus rather than the sole reason for it. So the demand hasn't changed. We get asked this a lot in our space around whether or not there's more deals to be had, more opportunity to be had because there's less people searching for it, but it's just simply not the case.
No, I mean, I think
opened up 2 new offices in Spain this year so far due to international demand that we're seeing. So, yeah, still a booming destination.
That's what we've seen. A lot of clients, I mean, to bear in mind that, for example, in Barcelona, we have a lot of clients buying from France, French nationals already in the EU, so no need for the golden visa. So there's a lot of international demand, but not coming in from countries where they already are part of the EU. So therefore, the visa for them was never a conversation starter. But these clients are also looking at Spain in general to purchase. So there's a lot of demand coming in already from countries that had no use for the visa before either.
No. Leads us on beautifully to the next question. It's like we wrote these in good order, isn't it, everyone? how are you seeing the profile of foreign investors and home buyers change in recent times? So this is links in from a golden visa notification change, but equally the topic that everyone's asking around is tariffs and Trump and what's happening there. We're seeing a sharp increase in Americans coming over, but what trends and themes are you seeing short-term, medium-term, and what do you expect through the rest of the year as a result of these economic and political events?
Yeah, we definitely saw a sharp increase in American inquiries just after the elections, or as it was becoming a lot more clearer that most likely Trump's administration was going to come in, and people were looking at a bit of a plan B to purchase a property. At that time, the visa was still in play as well. What have we seen post the visa, and now obviously a little bit more clearer? And the first, I think today is the 100th day that Trump's in his presidency. That was the news this morning. Trend-wise, I would say the biggest thing that we're seeing is more locally based in, say, Barcelona as an example, where a lot of people that were renting before are now sort of taking advantage of the relatively low interest rates due to the regulation surrounding the rental market, where the government have tried to implement, or they have implemented, I should say, a rental cap. So a maximum price that the landlord can charge on a long-term contract, with the view, I guess, from their side to kind of make it a bit more fairer for tenants. It's actually had the opposite effect. A lot of landlords have taken their properties off the market because based on the price, or the maximum price that they can charge the tenant, it doesn't work for them as an investment. So they're either deciding to completely leave them vacant and use themselves as a holiday home, or looking to sell out of the investment and buy something else. So it hasn't actually created more supply, it's actually created less supply. So I think a lot of tenants are extremely frustrated with just bouncing from rental to rental. So we're getting a lot of inquiries in from those same tenants that are now saying, I'd rather sort of look at purchasing a property of my own, get off of the rental market, utilize low mortgage rates right now. And what we are seeing a lot of is a lot of, I suppose, the Royal Bank of mum and dad. I would say that there's parents helping the deposits, helping the kids out with the deposits to get them on the property ladder. Like the entry level to put down a deposit is still quite high in Spain. You're looking around at least 20% if you're a tax resident, and around 30% if you're a non-tax resident, plus the 10% tax that Ivan mentioned earlier. So it's quite a hefty fee to have as liquid money to put down. But that would be the one real trend that I'm seeing right now, is that a lot of parents sort of not lending the money to the kids, because then that's taxed, but doing things like loan donation contracts from the parents to the kids, so they can kind of gift the money without a heavy tax implication. And then those kids going on to sort of get their first property and getting out of the rental market.
What I'd also add that we're seeing here, again, from a financial and currency perspective, is we're seeing a few themes change. These themes we are expecting to see continue. Firstly, we're seeing a lot more Americans come into the market, probably for a number of reasons, from LA fires, relocations, to economic impacts, to some people wanting some diversification, some option. And there's even been talk, a building narrative around capital controls coming into the US, which personally I think is a bit unlikely, but people want to diversify. Yeah. And then also from the stock market movement that we've seen, you know, the R word's been thrown around, that voice of a recession perhaps. You know, is that just Trump trying to put more pressure on the Fed to cut interest rates? Probably, but we'll see what the inflation numbers look like, how quickly interest rates go down, and how that impacts borrowing costs, etc. But when the R word gets thrown around, and I'm referring to recession, not the B word that I don't want to say anymore, because we used to talk about Brexit for decades, or felt like decades, we see a lot of the wealthy, top of market, diversify their portfolio and move into real estate. So we're seeing a lot more of ultra market and top of market move into the property, and we're seeing more high value transactions of property as a result. The other trend that we're seeing is, as a result of interest rates going down, there is more talk around mortgage and taking debt on, but there's a lot more cash buyers out there. Going back to that prior point with regards to the transaction time period. So we're seeing a lot of transactions happen very quickly. We're seeing people make decisions a bit sooner than they would have historically from it. And what we're also seeing in our space is, because the currency market is moving so much, and the dollar-euro exchange rate, for example, it's moved, what, 3, 4, 5% between the top and the bottom this month in the last 30 days. It's having a real impact on people's budgets and how powerful their budget is. to a point that they're ending up, we've had clients literally in tears on the phone because their property isn't affordable and they have to buy a place with 1 or 2 less bedrooms as a result. So what we're doing...
I've had exactly the same situation. Yeah, it's a lot of clients who have said it was from January to just after they announced the Liberation Day, I think, as Trump called it. There was around a 6% movement, and we had quite a few clients where their purchasing power had moved, and therefore were like, right, Mo, what do we need to do to lock in before and to kind of stop the bleeding, because no one knows where it's going to stop out, and I'd rather sort of lock it in now rather than it moves another 2 basis points and I lose another 20,000 euros behind $1 million. So it's yeah, it's a very valid point.
And what people find in questions on this point, sorry, I'm digressing here, but this is a really popular topic that we're talking a lot, especially for the international clients of, you know, I need to open up a bank account. I can't do the currency aspect until I've got a bank account. And then you bring up a currency service. Kind of like, well, you don't need a bank account first. You can lock in exchange rates early. You can, historically, years gone by, and I've been doing this nearly 2 decades. When I first started, if the exchange rate moved by 0.5%, it'll be on the front of the Financial Times the next day. It would be a big, big event. Whereas now we're seeing that 4 days out of 5. So currency is no longer the last thing on the to-do list. It's getting a lot higher to the top, and we're transacting for clients. We did one of these last week, which was a multi-million-pound transaction for people who were buying, and they locked in their exchange rate, so they had the funds available before they even landed in the country to look at property. So they've done the currency before they've done the property, just so they have that certainty, and equally to be in that stronger position to be able to negotiate on that dream property when they find it.
Yeah, it's one of the things that we always actually advise on. The moment we get an inquiry from a client, there's 2 aspects to it, which is that where are the funds, what currency are they in, and the financing, because really from our side as property, as an estate agency, is to really lock in what is the real budget of the client, because a lot of the times clients don't take into account or are aware of the taxes to buy. So you might think someone has €1 million budget, but then they didn't take into account the 10% on top for the taxes. So actually it's not a million. And then when you start going shopping for properties and start doing viewings, then you sort of realize, okay, actually that's not what the real budget is. And likewise, if you've got clients transacting in dollars or sterling, we've had that very, very early on, which is before you come and do any viewings, let's get the exchange rate locked in. Let's start opening the lines of communication with a mortgage broker. So maybe you can borrow more money than actually what you think, maybe increase the budget and buy a better property. So those are always 2 things we advise clients on very early on into the whole transaction process.
Yeah, we had another case only I'm sorry, I'm digressing from all the questions we beautifully put together, but this is useful for the audience because again, this is something that really resonates with people, the importance of it. You're absolutely right. Finding that dream property is super important to find that, you know, a life event for a client that they've been planning for normally a long, long time. We had a case last week when a client had found their dream property, and to be honest, it was probably the agent's wild card, which was over their budget, but they fell in love with it. So they could only put the offer in of X, which was quite a bit of distance away from what the vendor wanted to accept. So it was multiple millions, and it came down to 0.5% difference. But that was the level that none of them wanted to move. The agent was getting a bit frustrated, introduced our service because the client was international. All of a sudden, we could increase their offer by 1.5%, and the deal was made. But it just highlights the value of, you know, for those listening in the audience here, this is why us experts have been put together. If you're not engaging with us on this topic, why not? You know, these are the experts with decades of experience between us to help. There is someone here who hasn't had a fair shot to say anything yet, so I'm going to come to you next, if you wouldn't mind, because your expertise is obviously all around immigration, which is an important part of this. There was a number of questions, so we're going to have a spotlight on this area, if you don't mind. First question for you: is it still possible to live legally in Spain after purchasing a property now that the golden visa has been eliminated? And what residency options are available for non-resident investors?
Thank you, Steve. Well, is it possible to live legally in Spain after making a real estate investment? However, the investment itself no longer grants the right to stay in the country with your 90 days within 180-day period. So if you want to stay more than 90 days in this period, it's still necessary to apply for a visa or residency permit. I could say that maybe the non-lucrative visa would be an alternative of the golden visa. This visa is designed for foreigners with passive income or savings. It requires 2,400 euros monthly of passive income or saving of at least 29,000 euros per year. And you can get a visa that it lasts for 1 year, is renewable for 2 years and another 2 years. And people that hold this visa is entitled to apply for the long-term residency permit and the Spanish passport, same rights as the golden visa. So I would say that the non-lucrative visa will be an alternative of the golden visa today.
Thank you. A question that's come in live from Philippa, so I'm going to put this to you and you can politely tell me if you need more details or if you need to take this offline, because again, the disclaimer here is that everyone's circumstance is different and unique, so you should be speaking to us directly with regards to this. But the question is, now that the Golden Visa program is cancelled, how can a UK citizen have a home in Spain as their principal residence?
Sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, there's a question from Philip that submitted it live a moment ago. Now that the Golden Visa program is cancelled, how can a UK citizen have a home in Spain as their principal residency? So this is probably related to post-Brexit, how people relocate to Spain.
Yeah, well, some months ago, there was in the news that it would be possible to apply, or to stay more than 90 days in Spain if you have a second residency in a second house in Spain. Maybe I think it was the same in France, but today there's not any plan to do that. So if you are from the UK, you have the same rules as any people that are not European Union national, like from the United States. If you want to stay more than 90 days in Spain, you need to apply for a visa. So, and that would be, for example, the non-lucrative visa. If you are from the UK, you need to apply for your home country. That would be Manchester or London Spanish consulate, and will allow you to stay at least 1 year in Spain. You can renew your visa, and of course, you can use your property as proof of income if you rent the property, or to show that you need all the money or savings of passive income to live in Spain because you have a house. So you don't need to cover the housing cost.
Thank you. There we go. Lots of questions still coming in, but I'll go back to the ones that have been submitted previously. What are the main differences between the non-lucrative visa and the former golden visa in terms of international mobility and professional activity? Very well written question.
We have three main differences. First is the application process. For the golden visa, it was possible to apply while in Spain in the 90 days. The application was online, so no appointments were needed, and you don't need any hard copies to submit the application. And it was a fast tracking process, just 20 business days to receive a resolution for the golden visa. On the other hand, we have the non-lucrative visa that you need to apply from your home country. So it's not possible to apply while in Spain. You need to get an appointment at the Spanish consulate, and the time response would be around 6 to 8 weeks. Then we have the second main requirement is the presence requirement. To keep and renew the golden visa, you just need 1 day to stay 1 day per year in Spain. That's it. And for the non-lucrative visa, unfortunately, requires to stay 180 days per year, not necessarily consecutive, but it triggers Spanish tax residency. That's one of the main difference with the golden visa. And the third main difference is the professional activity. Under the golden visa, you are allowed to work or set up a business, work remotely or inside. However, under the non-lucrative visa, it's for people that doesn't need to work. So no professional or work activity is allowed, either in Spain or abroad for Spanish clients. And so if you want to apply for the non-lucrative visa, but you need to work even remotely, there are other type of visa that we can discuss later, but under the non-lucrative visa, you lose the right to work. That's the main difference with the golden visa.
An important point, that one. We get asked a lot around that as well, don't we? Okay. Can an investor live in Spain under a non-lucrative visa and still manage or oversee real estate or financial investments abroad?
Yes, absolutely. A holder of a non-lucrative visa cannot work, but can provide activity remains passive income like dividends, distribution, rental income, capital gains. So under the non-lucrative visa, you cannot work, but that does not mean that you cannot earn money. You can own and supervise business or portfolio from Spain without actively working. You can set up a company in Spain, be a shareholder, but not provide services to the company. However, you cannot earn salary, consultancy fees, or manage clients while on this visa. So you cannot work, but you are still entitled to earn money under the non-lucrative visa.
Good answer. See, I told you I'm always learning. Good. Next one. What are the tax implications for a foreign investor residing in Spain under a non-lucrative visa?
Okay, as I said before, unfortunately, one of the requirements to keep and renew this visa is to stay 180 days in Spain. So that would mean that you could be considered a tax resident in Spain. You will need to file your personal income tax. There will be a wealth tax depending on the region that you live. It would be difficult to apply for the special tax regime that is the Beckham law. However, there is a way to try to avoid be considered tax resident if you don't have your family here, and because to keep and renew the non-lucrative visa, you need to show that you have been 100 days in the last 12 days of the period that the visa is valid. But it could be different that it doesn't match with the tax with the calendar tax year. So if you apply for the non-lucrative visa after the summer and you come, you will need to renew the visa in June, and so you will meet the requirement of the 183 days to keep and renew the visa, but you will not be considered tax resident if you don't have your family here. So unfortunately, under the golden visa, it was possible to invest, to stay more than 90 days, and to stay less than 183 days to avoid tax residency. But today, if you want to apply for the non-lucrative visa, you need to be very careful to not spend more than 183 days in a calendar tax year to avoid these consequences, or check the tax implications that you will have if you are tax resident.
Another good answer. I'm always learning. It's good. Okay. What alternatives exist for investors who want to live in Spain and also generate income or run a business? Are there more flexible visa options other than the non-lucrative one?
I would say that there are two options. If you need to work or you can work remotely, we have the digital nomad visa designed for remote workers, such as independent contractors, 1099 United States, or W2 employees. Also for shareholders of foreign companies. So under the digital nomad visa, you could apply while in Spain. This visa shares the same process as the golden visa, the same rules. So you can apply while in Spain, you can get a response in just 20 business days, but it's a bit difficult to meet the social security requirements if you are an employee. So the best way to apply for this visa is as independent contractor, self-employed, 1099, or as an owner of a company. This visa allows you to stay 3 years in Spain. You can renew every 2 years, and the financial requirements is just to show that you are earning in the last 3 months of the application 3,000 euros monthly. On the other hand, we have the entrepreneur visa. It's a visa that also you can apply while in Spain. You have the fast tracking process, so just you can get a response in 20 business days, and it's a bit more demanding. It requires a detailed business plan, a proof that this business is innovative or in the public interest. For example, creating jobs in Spain. It's not like maybe opening a restaurant. It's more like opening a tech company, something that would be innovative for the Spanish market, or that you can show that you will create job positions today. So the entrepreneur visa is similar like investment visa because you need to invest money in the Spanish market to do this. However, we still have the rule of 183 days to keep and renew this visa. But under these two visas, you can apply one in Spain, you can get a response very fast, and you could have 3 years visa plus another 2 years of renewal. So we have the non-lucrative visa as the main alternative, but if you need to work, then you have the digital nomad visa or the entrepreneur visa.
Thank you. As a reminder, everyone's circumstance is different, so please make sure you're engaging and speaking to the experts here to get that personal point of view with regards to your personal circumstances. A few bits from me on the currency bit, because a few people have asked questions. I think normally currency is at the bottom of the to-do list, but it probably has something to do with Trump and how everyone's budgets are moving recently, that there have been some questions on this. One of the questions was, why would I use a currency specialist over my local bank? In the nicest ways, how many times has your bank rang you? And to give you some scale, we're transferring billions a year. So if we couldn't provide a value or save money, we wouldn't be here. So it's worth that conversation. Questions have come in with regards to cost. There's no cost to speaking to us. There's no obligation once you've opened up an account. However, what in our space makes our money is on the actual transfer. So when we're doing the transfer, it's built into the exchange rate that we're offered out to a client. So that's your kind of take-home price, your take-home exchange rate, which includes a little bit for us. So it's worth having that conversation. There's no minimums or maximums. We help people with small transfers of thousands to people managing multi-million-pound positions. It all comes down to that perception of value from the client's perspective as to the saving that they can offer. A good series of questions came in around, when do you speak to a currency person? You probably no surprise here, we'd always recommend sooner rather than later, right? With how much we've talked about the market moving, it can have a fundamental impact on how many bedrooms that property has. So engaging early is really important, and I'd emulate that across all the services that are represented in today's session. Someone asked whether or not you needed to have a destination account to send funds through to before you speak to us. No, you don't. We're regulated and authorized to service clients in the UK, in Europe and in the US, and we can do that up to Treasury service and e-money, so you get accounts with us that you can hold funds into. And the last one I'll answer very quickly was around risk mitigation. I think that comes back to the point that we've been talking about here. You'll have stage payments on a property purchase traditionally, unless it's a new build which might have multiple stage payments. But you can manage that risk around currency impacting your budget whenever you wish. So you can buy some early, buy all of it early, wait until the invoice, the bill comes through to have a look at. But obviously, in that time period, the exchange rate will move and impact the cost in pounds, US dollars, dirhams, Australian dollars that you might be using to fund that purchase. So engaging early is really important. Again, you get everyone's contact details post-event as well. So be aware you'll have that to answer some more questions that come through. Hopefully that was useful, but keep the questions coming in if you'd like some more currency related. More questions have actually come in, so I'm going to go around to a few of you here with some questions in. Right, what type of insurances do you have for the funds sent from a currency conversion? Okay, that's a question for myself, sorry, I didn't do that on purpose. Well, we're regulated and authorized across in the UK and Europe and in the US. So in essence, you hold a bank facility here with us. We'll provide the banking receipts and transfers and everything for you as you'd expect. Equally, we are representing here alongside these wonderful brands for a reason. So standing next to these pillars of the industry should give you some comfort as well. What are the rules for opening a bank account for US citizens? That's a good question because there's lots of US in the audience today as well. What I would say from our perspective is you can open up an account easily. That's not a problem from a trading perspective. Opening up bank accounts in Spain can vary a little bit depending on what stage you're in the buying process. But that's something that the respective agent that you're speaking to, and we've obviously got a very big favourite here, which is with us beside us, that you should be speaking with, and they'll talk through that part of the process for you. But what I'm saying is there is some more cost-effective ways of doing that in the process, which Mo and his wonderful team will be able to help. Question that's coming in around Brexit. I thought I'd escaped the B word, but it's still being talked about. We've touched on relocation here. Obviously, post-Brexit, you need to apply visas to be able to stay longer, and we've discussed that with our wonderful expert here around what that process might look like. Is there any specific regulations for Spain? No, there isn't. So just bear in mind, if you're a Brit and concerned following Brexit that it's more difficult than it was before, You could argue that, but equally, whenever you holiday and visit Spain, you will find an awful lot of Brits buying there. Last year, so in 2024, 32,000 Brits bought a property abroad, and the biggest destination by a mile was Spain, with over 9,000 transactions reported from Brits buying in Spain last year. So you're not alone, and the process, the people here on this panel today will be able to help you through that process. Right, enough about me, because everyone's probably heard enough of me. I'm going to come back to Mo with some questions around themes that you're seeing, please, in the property space and what people are looking for. So a few questions have come in around areas and locations to consider, remembering a majority of the audience that are joining us today are starting their process, so at the beginning of their journey. So can you give some more clarity and comfort around what they should expect in their first trips and visits to narrow down the property, the region that they might be looking for, and what they should expect?
Yeah, I think it depends on actually what people want out of the property. I think there's always a common misconception that people have a perceived idea in terms of what they want or where they want to be in terms of a city. And actually then when our team sits down specifically with those clients and actually explores why they want to be in that location or why they need that size property, that many bedrooms, bathrooms, etc., the story can often quite change. So I think for us, the biggest thing is always to really, a little bit like an annoying child, always ask why. Why do you want to be in that area? What the property's got to work for you. That's kind of our motto at Lucas Fox. So I think the first thing is really understanding what the client's objectives are and what they want to get out of the property in terms of how long do they expect to use it on an annual basis? How often they're going to be coming over? Is it just going to be for them, or is the rest of the family going to use it as well? So these kind of things I think are super important when taken into account and for someone starting their property search. And then from there, we'll try and obviously whittle it down and show various different areas so people can sort of benchmark against location to location. And then they can kind of get a feel for which part of town or city they want to be in. Obviously, we've got 30 offices across the country now as well. So we can sort of offer quite a wide range or selection of properties for the client to then sort of take into account whether it's an apartment or a villa, if they want to be up in the mountains or on the beach side. So a lot of it varies in terms of what they initially have as an idea, then sitting with our team and going through a little bit more finer detail in terms of how the property is going to work for them. As we said, usage and things like that. And then we can sort of come up with a selection of properties. Typically what we'll say to clients if they're overseas as well, we won't wait for them to come over and then start the search, because the market's so active. By the time the clients book the tickets and then they're on the ground, 8 times out of 10 that property is already sold. So for us, one super important thing is virtual viewing. So FaceTime, Zoom or WhatsApp video, we'll get the client on a video call and show them the property. We'll have one of the agents go there and do a video tour with them, not only on the property, but also the surrounding area. So they can already kind of whittle it down to maybe a selection of 6 or 7 properties. And then from there, really say, right, you need to get yourself over. If they're coming from the UK, hour and 45 minutes, 2 hours, you're in Spain on the ground, do back-to-back viewings, and then kind of that way, it's a real good utilization of their time. And then they can sort of proceed to making an offer, getting in touch with the currency people like yourselves, the mortgage brokers, the lawyers, and then sort of taking it from there.
And what I'd equally add to that is we do, and yes as well, but we get some people that come back from a viewing appointment and viewing trip that feel a bit disheartened that they haven't progressed around it. But what I'd highlight is that's part of the journey. If you're learning where you don't want to be, that's equally as important as finding the place that you do want to be. And as long as you're enjoying that journey as you go through, that's an important step.
I just wanted to add what Mo explained. It's also if you are coming from UK, it's easier, but we have a lot of clients from America or even Australia. It's very far away. Having a representative here, it's quite easy. If you make a power of attorney, you have somebody here who can open your bank account, can sign on your behalf. So if you are able to come and do the training, it's okay. But if you are not available, or even if you don't want to do it, having a representative here in Spain is something that can make the process much easier.
Yeah.
Well, what I would say is we've had lots and lots of questions that we haven't managed to answer, but I'm hoping that everyone's enjoying the value that we're getting here, and hopefully not too many people are re-watching this at 2 times speed. Everyone will have contact details shared thereafter. There have been some questions that have come in which we haven't got to answering, which have perhaps been a bit too specific. So we'll approach them directly thereafter. As we come to the last couple of minutes of this session, I just want to go around us all with your top recommendation for those watching, your biggest recommendation that people should take on board as they start their journey to finding that dream property in Spain. Who wants to set us off? Who wants to go first?
I can start. I will go again with what I said before. It's do the things properly and on time. If you do everything in advance, if you are hiring the proper professional, it doesn't need to be me or maybe Brian or Mo, but please be careful and try to choose the proper professional, because in Spain also there are a lot of professionals who are not really specialized. It's people who is selling luxury and they are not expert in luxury. They are selling that they are real estate lawyers and they are not, or they are selling that they are immigration lawyers and they are not. So be on time and also choose the correct professional.
Come on, guys. What else would you?
I'll go. No, I think Ivan made a very, very solid point, and I see it a lot of the times with clients where they've started late. And I think, as you mentioned earlier, once you've already got an offer accepted and then you're starting the due diligence and you're picking up things that should have been picked up well before the offer, everything gets super complicated. So I think what we always try and do with clients when they are physically here, or as Ivan mentioned, if they're further afield, is power of attorney, get a representative that can get the NIE number as an example, which is the foreigner's tax identification number that you need, open the bank account in certain cases as well for you, execute the public deed, but really do the research, I think, is my biggest takeaway for clients. Go online, look at an agency's reviews or a lawyer's reviews or an immigration specialist reviews, or whether using FX people or brokers, really sort of do a little bit more digging, making sure that you are working with good quality providers, because there is a lot of people out there. If you went onto Google right now and typed in luxury real estate in Barcelona, you're going to get a lot of different options. So really sort of do a lot of research, do a lot of digging, making sure you're working with the right people. Otherwise, the process of buying the dream home really can then go to being a dream nightmare. So, and that's not obviously the objective of it all. It's got to be a pleasurable experience. So just get prepped, do research, ask for recommendations, and then basically go with the person that you get the best feeling from and that can answer all of the questions that you have, and also come up with a solution to the problem that you didn't know that you had as well. Because if you're coming up with a solution when you found out the problem, that can cost a lot of money. So it's about preparation and planning well, I think.
I would say that from the immigration point of view, it's always important that if the client comes to Spain to see the property, to respect always the 90 days. Because if you don't respect the 90 days within the 180 days, you could buy a property, but there will be a negative implication to get the visa after that. So maybe you have your dream property in Spain, but you cannot stay more than 90 days. And always try to get the NIE number, the tax number. So because sometimes the deadline is very close, you need to sign the purchase deed in just 2-3 weeks, and there's no time to get this. So it's possible to do on time. You can get it from the Spanish consulate, or if you come to Spain, you can apply here and get it in just a few days. So it's very important to make sure that you get the tax number and you respect the 90 days when you buy a property.
Another good point. What I'd add from my side is, yes, we're here for a reason. We are passionate people with decades of experience between us, and we're here for a reason. Please don't just lean on Google and ChatGPT nowadays. Engage with the experts. That doesn't class as legal advice. I'll equally give a supporting story here, especially we helped a lot of Brits in the audience watching the recording. In the UK, there's an investment model called an ISA in the UK. But as people change residency status into Europe post-Brexit, depending on personal circumstances, those ISAs become instantly taxable. So I've had clients before who haven't looked at that and haven't planned their wealth before a move and end up with quite a sizable tax bill because Google said it would be okay. So it can be quite a big implication. So yeah, I would say talk to the experts early, and can't be early to this. So lots of research, lots of discussions to get all that information. Hopefully we're all coming across as friendly, professional, approachable people who know our things. So please do engage with us. But all that leaves me to say is thank you very much for your input today. And I'm talking to the people on camera with me today. I always learn things when we get together. So thank you for sharing and giving up your evening. Hopefully everyone in the audience live and indeed watching the recording has found use and value of this, but please do provide feedback. You know, if you'd like us to talk about particular topics, questions haven't been answered, then please do reach out to us and we'll be here to help. Otherwise, I wish you all a pleasant evening, morning, good afternoon, wherever you might be around the world. And we look forward to helping you with your purchase in Spain.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.